is, like you were saying,
Okay.
she's a lot more aware of what's going on and wakes up very easily.
Yeah. Yeah. So what that is she needs to know that she's going to sleep. Like her environment, it's actually like kind of a survival thing. I don't know if you've ever noticed that it wouldn't even matter if you went and stayed in a 6-star hotel and you went to bed, and at first it's going to take you a really long time. Have you ever noticed
Yeah.
that? If you stayed somewhere else, it's perfectly comfortable, perfectly everything, but it's not your usual surrounds, and so you just might take a little bit longer to get to sleep, or you might wake a few more times or something like that. Have you ever noticed anything like that?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Okay. So that is actually just a normal, natural thing that happens to us when we're not in our familiar environment. And then on top of that, with babies, if they sort of like wake up and they're not in the same position as they were when they fell asleep, that's their kind of like survival thing as well. Like, oh, I'm not in the same spot.
Yeah.
So it's quite normal, but what we want at the 3-month stage and onwards is for them to know that they went to sleep in that space and then they don't wake up. You don't necessarily have to teach self-settling techniques at this age, although they're perfectly able to do it from 3 months onwards because of exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
But if you want to try initially with the less crying situation, although some babies will just cry anyway, even if you're there comforting her. How do you find it when you try to settle her while you're there, and that sort of thing? Is she like, what's her sort of temperament when you're trying to settle her drowsy? What sort of happens? What's the merry-go-round that sort of happens when you're trying to settle her at nighttime?
Yeah. She's usually, she doesn't get too upset or anything when trying to settle her. When we pop her down drowsy, she usually just becomes wide awake again and starts smiling at us. And if and it's like, nope.
Yeah. Okay.
But if she wakes up when we've left the room, that's when she'll obviously start crying because she'll know that we're not there.
Yeah. Okay. So what we want is for her to know that she went to sleep in the cot without being transferred. That's would be the ideal scenario. And so what you can actually start doing is 2 things. Have a look at awake times, which aren't perfect for every child, but they are based on averages, because I was a maternity nanny for over 20 years. So I've looked after hundreds of babies, and the vast majority of them work really well with these awake times. And the ones that don't, you can just tweak it a little bit. You've got somewhere to start.
Yeah.
So at 4.5 months, what time have you even sort of noticed what time the gap is between the last nap of the day and when you put her down to bed? Or have you just sort of decided a bedtime for her regardless of when that last nap took place?
Yeah, we usually try to wake her up if she's not already awake, because she usually goes down for a sleep at 4 to 4:30.
Oh, yeah.
And then we usually try and make sure that she wakes up by 6 o'clock. And then
So she's been going down into the cot, maybe I'm just trying to see if I understand, maybe taking a bit of time, but then once she does go to sleep, she has like an hour and a half sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
She can do that. She doesn't nap in the cot, unfortunately. Okay. So we'll usually, she's napping on us.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, you did say that. Yeah, I remember now. Okay. So when you say that she's napping on you, are you nap trapped or are you in a carrier?
Majority of the time now it's nap trapped, because she used to be happy just being worn or going for a walk in the stroller and she'll fall asleep.
Right.
But now it's more she wants to be in our arms.
Okay. All right. So
she just had a giggle.
What we want to do. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, she was just giggling at me.
Oh, yeah. Sure. So do you think that it's around, like if you were, so at 4 months, it's around 2 hours maximum awake time before they sort of start getting overtired? Okay. Babies can show tired signs sooner than that, but if they're inside like an hour and a half, it's unlikely that it is tired signs. They just might be bored of the situation that they might be in.
Yeah.
When you say that she sleeps in your arms as in nap trapped, how long does it take from when you decide that you're going to put her to sleep in your arms, saying sure, sure, whatever it is that you do, and then having her drop off to sleep? How long does it usually take, like until she becomes heavy?
With all the early naps, it's quite quick.
Mm-hmm.
But that last nap of the day, it's usually can take about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
To get her settled.
Yeah. And that's actually really normal.
Yeah.
So as the day progresses, the level of sensations and, you know, I guess normal stresses of the day mean that the cortisol levels in us like start to raise a little bit, and they reset when the sun sets and the melatonin starts setting in and all that sort of thing, which is why bedtime,
yeah,
we get to the you know, that strong drive to sleep. So what I would be suggesting is that initially, first of all, we just want to have a look at how we feel about the process.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you the practicals, because the practicals are kind of easy-ish, but our attitude is everything.
Yeah.
Because if we aren't sure about the process and accepting of babies' reactions to the process, whether it's waking up quickly or not going to sleep quickly enough or crying or what have you, what often tends to happen is we switch to another idea and then switch to another idea. As in, for example, you might have just popped her down and then she's woken up, so you pick her up and you start jiggling, and then you start rocking, and then you think, oh, maybe she's hungry, and have a feed. So that's what I mean by switching things around, like, oh, could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this?
Yeah.
And the problem with that is it raises anxiety for everybody, and baby starts to sort of sense, okay, sort of what's going on here. And at first, a lot of the time that can be quite stimulating for them because it's interesting, and then it starts getting a bit stressful because, well, baby's getting overtired and you're getting frustrated. So they're the kind of general scenarios that can happen. So what we want to do, and it's easier said than done, but once you get into that process of trying not to get upset, even internally, even if you're not showing it, and just be like, okay, yeah, this is how it is. And what you can actually do is when things aren't going the way that they're supposed to, say she goes to sleep, like, oh, you're awake, it's sleepy time. And what we want to do is have a routine, a pre-sleep routine that happens before bedtime and before naps, so that she starts to understand what's coming next. Because babies do start to really recognize what's coming next, as long as we make it the same every single time. And I have a little pre-sleep routine that you can see on my Facebook page. It's pretty easy to find. It's a video, and it's explaining a pre-sleep routine, which is, I'll just tell you like really quickly. So at nighttime, that's bath, and then book, and then lullaby, and then sleep. And you mentioned like a bit of a random, I think you said random lullaby or something like that. But I actually have a lullaby that I developed while I was a mothercraft nanny for a bunch of years. And it's literally telling baby what's happening next. And then you extract a verse from that to be your sleep phrase. So remembering or realizing, because some parents don't totally realize this, that your voice is actually really soothing. And out of everything, it's the most soothing thing because it's the most familiar thing. So it's all about our attitude in remaining calm. And that's not always possible because you're a human being, but as much as possible, remaining calm and observing how your baby is reacting is a major part of all of this, in terms of her association with bedtime being nice and something that we do and what's going to happen and so forth. So instituting that pre-sleep routine. And then what you do is you do that pre-sleep routine prior to naps as well. So you just get a baby book, the exact same one every time. And as you know, the board books, I mean, And as she gets older, you can add books, but you always finish with that baby book, because that's the book that tells babies that, oh, okay, so the lullaby's coming next. And it's almost like they tick it off in their heads, because they're creatures of routine, humans are in general. And then you start singing the song, and you're able to soothe her with the song, sleepy time, my love, sleepy time. And so you would have her having, when it's bedtime, you'd have the feed, whether it's breast or bottle, before bath, and then the other part just before the routine starts. So the routine's only going to take you 5 to 10 minutes, as in the book, lullaby, you know, and putting her down to sleep. And then you would sway a little bit, but just a little bit. You've sung like maybe a minute, so that she's calm. You don't have to worry about her being drowsy, because that doesn't work after this change in the brain that happens after 12 weeks. The drowsy part is actually the beginning of sleep. So if she's in that light sleep phase, that's why she's waking up. So we want her to go to sleep awake in that position. So initially, what you can try before you want to do the pick up, put down scenario, what you can try at this age, because they like to be a little bit squished in at this age, but you want her to lie on her back to go to sleep, is you have her calm, and then you put her down on her side and keep patting her back, like, you know, just really lightly, because you don't want it to be too stimulating, but you're there. And then as you feel her starting to get heavier, then you let her fall back onto her back, so that she's fallen asleep in the same position as where she was consciously when she went down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it might take a little while, so you want to make sure it's very comfortable between you and the bassinet, or you and the cot, whatever you're using. You want to be comfortable, but you can be singing that lullaby and patting her back, and they just find it more comfortable on their side. And then you like let her fall, you know, you can help her fall back. And when she falls back, you know, holding her, they like the proximity, but if she's in the cot, she's more likely to stay asleep there, because she hasn't been moved. The other little thing that you might want to do, if you're not already doing it, is put a hot water bottle in before you put her down in the cot, and take it out, obviously.
We have just started doing that, mainly because it's cold.
Exactly. But the other reason is, obviously, you know, cuddled up to you, she's quite warm.
Yeah, that makes
sense. So it's that kind of thing. The other thing that I would also say to do is to put your pillows in. It's a bassinet, is it?
Yeah.
And she's in the same room as you?
Yeah. I've still got it sidecar, so it's next to the
perfect.
bed. Yeah.
So during the day, all you want to do is just put your pillow in her bed, like in between sleep, so that it smells a little bit more like you.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing to do. When you're having like sheet changes and things like that, just, if you can, it's not always easy to remember to do this, but when they come out of the wash, shove the bassinet mattress sheet in your pillowcase for a day. Like, just that's where they live. Just fold them and put them inside your pillowcase. Again, it makes them smell a little bit like you. These are little things that probably affect maybe 5 to 10%. So they're not game changers, but they do help. Yeah. But in terms of the settling, that's the main thing. Having you in proximity, letting her lie down, having the space be nice and warm, so it's not an uncomfortable space for her to go into. And you will likely see more success from this. You might not see long naps, but she at least she'll go down for a sleep for at least that initial nap.
Yeah.
It sounds to me that you might still see the longer naps if you keep the awake times in check as well. So going for like a maximum of 2 hours awake. So that's where you would choose to put her down at an hour and 3/4, so that you've got that 5 to 15 minutes of her settling off to sleep.
Yeah.
And then just pay attention, like just make a little note of how long it took her to settle each time, and then over a week you'll see an average. Don't stress yourself out with it though. Don't be like, oh my God, I've got to, but put a little pen and paper. Don't I would just put it rather than in the phone. We don't want to be always in our phones all the time with absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It's stressful. But just have a notepad so you can just write down, okay, 5 minutes today, 10 minutes today, whatever it was. And if you forget, who cares? Don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out about it. We just want to like kind of get an idea of what her awake time is. And once you've figured that out, generally speaking, the first nap of the day tends to be the shortest awake time. The second nap of the day is probably usually about the same as the first one, give or take. And then the third and fourth ones start to get a little bit more annoying. So, what you would do is go for, depending on what's going on in your life, but go for those bassinet naps in the middle, like at least trying to have at least one or two in the bassinet if you're wanting her to transfer to that, and then have you out and about. And if she doesn't fall asleep, don't worry about it. She will eventually. Yeah. Because she'll be tired. And so she'd be on 4 naps now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, usually. Yeah.
It won't
Sometimes
be long
it's
before
a bit
she
of a
kind of drops that
nap,
fourth nap.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. Again, we basically want the nighttime sleep to be the one that has figured itself out. So, you know, it sounds really great. She's waking up every 3 hours, sounds like. Is that right? Is it 2 or 3 times overnight?
Yeah, it's every 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah,
and it's just for a
really
feed,
normal at this age.
Yeah.
And is she taking a full feed?
Yeah, she is. And she does usually start to fall asleep on the first breast, and then I just wake her up, pop her on the other one.
Okay.
And I'm mixed feeding, so she also wakes up again a little bit, like she tries to fall asleep on the second breast, so then she finishes her bottle.
Okay. I personally wouldn't worry too much about if she falls asleep, just pop her back down, just because we look at feeding over a 24-hour period. So it's like we'd like to get as many feeds in during the day, but of course that does depend on her tummy, like if she can only digest food every 3 hours. But you're saying like she'll fall asleep and then she'll take plenty more, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she'll start to get drowsy and then she'll take some more.
Okay. So for that first feed, the one that happens after 3 hours and then the one that happens after that again, it'd just be interesting to see, like, first of all, you wait 10 minutes overnight to, like, because some parents, like, they jump up and they're like, okay, I'll feed my baby right away. But actually they might resettle. Yeah. Because they're less, like, especially in this age as well, they're more likely to get their calories in during the day. Yeah. So, like, they're more amenable to it because the world around them is just, you know, light and what have you. So when she wakes up from her naps, give her a feed then, and she's more likely to stay awake for those feeds and to have these really full feeds straight after her naps. Yeah. And so it is okay if she's not completely waking up and needing a feed overnight. Yeah. And sometimes that can happen. At 4 months they can drop back to one feed, and then it comes back up again as they go through another growth spurt, and then it goes back down, and then things start petering out and being a little bit more obvious around the 6 month age in terms of the overnight feeds. So those are things that I'm not saying definitely you got to do, but they can be really helpful for encouraging more daytime feeding. Because when babies wake up overnight, they might get stimulated if you wake them to feed on you know, through another way. So so it's something that so the last feed to go is the one that happens after 3 a.m. That sort of drops off between 8 and 12 months. And so that's sort of, so when it's the first feed of the night that she wakes up for after 3 hours, just make sure that she has woken up for a feed. And so if you give babies up to 10 minutes, so you wait 2 minutes, is she just sort of chortling and making a bit of noise? Okay, I'll wait a little bit more. 5 minutes, still maybe in active sleep, and then she settles off back to sleep, then that means her stretches of sleep are starting to get longer in terms of she isn't waking up out of hunger, she's making a bit of a noise. But if we jump straight to babies the minute they sort of make a bit of a noise because we think, oh, it's 3 hours, she must be ready for a feed, I'll just get it over and done with kind of thing, you know, then that's when sometimes the habitual waits can kind of happen, and then they don't feed as much during the day because they start breaking it up between night and day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's probably what is going on, because I've found that she's feeding less in the day at the moment and drinking a lot more at night, because she'll fall asleep on the one boob, and then I try sometimes to transfer her back to the bassinet, and she'll be like, nope, I want some more, and start like tossing and turning until she wakes up. So I think maybe she is getting a bit mixed up.
Yeah, it can happen so often. So that's why I'm sort of thinking like top her up with the formula more during the day.
Yeah.
Because so you're having like those extra calories at nighttime, and then just not as much. And that's why it can just be easier to just, especially at this age, because she's only the awake periods are much shorter, so you got 2 hours, and then, you know, she might sleep for an hour, so it's like kind of the amount of time that babies really kind of need, 3 to 4 hours at this age between feeds. And then she'll take much fuller feeds. And also at nighttime, if your supply is a little bit lower, which is, I'm assuming, why you mix feeding, then if she does wake up again in an hour and a half, then at least that will actually be helping your supply, and it'll only be a temporary thing. And then you'll know for sure if she really is waking out of hunger. And that's where that 10-minute wait can be really, really helpful. So I don't know if you've heard the wives' tale of, and it doesn't really happen this way anymore, but no one used to really like pre-prepare their formula and microwave the bottles as much back when I was first working, and definitely not when our grandmothers were working, the ones that always say, just feed formula and your baby will sleep through the night. But what that actually is the 10-minute wait. It takes 10 minutes to sort that formula. Nowadays, everyone's like bang, 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 and they wake the baby up, and then they get and then they're not settling back to sleep as easily. But you know, that's where that wives' tale comes from, the formula for baby sleeping through the night. They give them more opportunity to resettle. That's been my observation. So if you institute that 10-minute wait, you might be really surprised. She'll probably settle off back to sleep if she's really not hungry. And it'll also help with the daytime feeds.
Awesome.
All right.
And I think that's where I might have been going wrong with my sleep routine, is we was changing up the books before bedtime as well, so maybe that was stimulating her.
That probably won't be where you're going wrong. And be really careful with thinking that you're going wrong at all in general, because from what you've said, it all sounds great. I'm giving you stuff to help it be better. Like, you're doing fine. The same book every time is a sleep association that will develop over time. So at this age, she kind of couldn't give a hoot what book it is. She probably doesn't care. She probably doesn't remember.
True.
I'm just giving you a little nudge to be mindful of not looking at anything as you going wrong, because you do want to tune into your mum's intuition. Everything that I've said to you today is extra stuff that will help you. They're tips. It's coaching, but everything that you've been doing nothing wrong. It's completely normal and natural for babies to want to be in close proximity to you. That's why she is napping for longer. But you've gotten to the point now that I'm hearing that, no, I don't want to be nap trapped. So I want to know how we can help her settle in her cot. Very common at 4 months. Very common. So you're doing great.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, no worries. Let me know if I can be of further assistance, and definitely jump on and let me know how you get on.
I will do. Thank you so much.
That's okay. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.